All right, good morning, people. Bob here, back once again. We are ready to break down some Bitcoin. Let's get right down to it. Bitcoin weekly chart in front of us as usual. We are making our way up towards the 21 moving average. It's at around 21,000, just under, just over maybe. Got a pretty good idea that we're probably going to see something close to 21.5 at some point in the coming future days, hours, who knows. But I got a pretty good belief that that's probably going to be in the cards. Might be the high for the week. I figure this could go one of a few ways. Essentially, you know what we've got here, and I'll show. Let's go ahead and zoom in on a different time frame. Actually, let's do like a 12-hour chart. I mean, you can see on a 12-hour that, in fact, we still have a solid uptrend, and we got 10 hours left of this candle for it to start moving into the green and make its way up here to the 200, which, again, right here at 21,000. We've kind of got a bit of a rising channel here of sorts, trapped within the lower trend line of this prior rising channel, and then we've got the lower one here. So, it wouldn't be a surprise to see this thing break through the top of it, come on in, put in a little bit more effort before having to come back down and retrace. Now, if it then finds support here, all of a sudden you open yourself up to, and I almost hate to say it, 22.5. But again, and yesterday worked out, so I guess I could go ahead and speculate as to certain prices, but let's not get ahead of ourselves too much here. But yeah, we still got a lot of time for this thing to flip into a green candle. So we'll see if it happens or not, but I think there's a chance that it does. Volume is kind of trailing off a little bit here. I mean, this 12-hour candle here was huge volume. This one a little bit less. And this one's starting out, it's only about 2 hours in, so no surprise that it doesn't have a ton of volume yet, but we'll see how that goes. We'll see how it goes. That's basically all you can say. Now I'm going to zoom in on some other time frames here, just kind of talk to you about how or why I'm kind of looking at 21,000 to 21.3, 21.5, and we'll talk about that here momentarily. But just kind of wanted to get this part out of the way first, and really I want to take us over briefly to the monthly chart, and just I know we don't talk about this frequently. But you probably remember when we got this double bottom here, and I said, all right, that's basically what we want. This was a little bit off, so maybe this month would be slightly down again. This one, finally, we are green. We've got a candle that is up above currently the prior monthly candle. So realistically, you close out above 20,000, and I think 20,300 is probably realistically the number we want. But you close above there, and all of a sudden, you in fact have potentially at least reversed course on the downtrend and are actually beginning to possibly work your way back up the chart. And again, the weekly says that we could end up in one of a few places. So I think I'd love to see this thing just close out above 20,300 this week. That would be a nice feel good as far as that part goes. All right, so let's go ahead and zoom in on some other time frames here. Like I said, we've got an idea where we think we've got potential to move to, and that may not be today. It might be tomorrow. You come down here. We didn't get a retest down into this range like I thought we could. So right now we've blown through some different areas. Probably best case scenario, today, tomorrow we get a retest here at this 20,300, which we kind of just did a little bit ago. Just really in the last maybe like hour or so, got a retest down there. I was talking to Matt, said, hey, we get a nice bounce off of here. We got a small parabola that is intact, and potentially gives us some movement to make that final push to the, right back to 20,900, 21,000, 21.3, 21.5, somewhere in that range. But again, I don't know. It's already a pretty good day. I mean, we're talking 5+%, or actually that's the weekly. Excuse me. We had a 3.88, 2.56 right now. We do have a bearish divergence, and again, this is happening for good reason. I mean, right here, you're going to expect people to take some profits. This is the top of a pattern. If we happen to get through it, that's great. But you know, you can see here the last time we got a daily bearish divergence, what happened? Multi-day downtrend, bearish divergence, boom, bearish divergence, boom, bearish divergence, boom, and bearish divergence, boom. So again, you've got everything that's sitting here suggesting, yeah, this move's probably maxing out pretty quick. And it may have already done so, right? Like it already hit pretty close to 20,900 overnight. So it may very well already be working its way out. You know, as far as the RSI goes, I mean, we basically got what we were looking for kind of out of this concept right here. We did get a breakout, essentially a back test, and then a go. Out of that, so, and that's what we were talking about a couple days back. How that may end up looking. So we more or less got that one. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, from a daily standpoint, we're in a position where chances are pretty good. We're maxing out this move, but we might not be quite there yet. Looking at the 12-hour again, we've got this guy right here. Looking over at the like 6-8 hour, you know, 6 hour, we've got a cross about to take place, and you can see here. I mean, even on the 6 hour, this thing's got a little baby parabola going. With 4 hours left to go, this thing either needs to break down hard soon, or it needs to go ahead and pop all the way up and make a final kind of move to the upside. And then this thing's going to roll over hard. I mean, you know, you get these little baby parabolas at the top of a move. I would say that generally speaking, you're going to get 1, 2, 3 candles that will be green. And that's when, you know, at some point shortly thereafter, you're going to start to see some downside come into play. So I think it's fairly safe to say that's kind of where we're at right here. And I'm really just kind of looking for this thing to make, again, one final push. 21.3, 21.5, 20, you know, somewhere in there. Now, I suppose you could kind of compare this sort of to this area. This thing did have a parabola that formed out as well. This one's just a much cleaner parabola, right? Like this thing is as clean as you can get. It's fairly obviously. Now, if it breaks out of this pattern, you've got to at least consider the idea that assuming this is a valid pattern concept right here, that the max move is going to be right in the 22,000 range. And again, we just talked about that, and you know, the possibility. And then I've also got another measured move that's going to take us right there as well. So again, the concept itself is logical. We can also argue that this little guy right here is basically a rounded bottom pattern. Boom, here you go, 22,000. So I can get us there multiple different ways. I really can, in terms of getting us to that 22,000 range. Now, again, I don't get to make the decision as to whether we go there or not. All I'm sitting here telling you is that there are moves that could be measured out that will take us there, at least potentially. So that's what we're going to be on the lookout for here. And then again, I think this thing ultimately putters out shortly thereafter. Because again, you can see here too, same concept. I mean, this is the 6 hour bearish divergence. That's what happened. Bearish divergence, boom. Bearish divergence, boom. So this one was tiny. How big is this one going to be? Well, that's ultimately the question that we have to ask ourselves and get an answer to here when the market is ready to show us. But in the meantime, again, I'm anticipating that there's a strong likelihood that we end up making our way up the chart into this area here, if not potentially all the way up to here. Because at the end of the day, we need to kill this downtrend. And what's the way to kill a downtrend? Is you start putting in higher moves. Finally, we're getting close. You know, candles that are closing up above this level. Now we got to start getting candles that close up above here. But this is a good start. This is a good start, of course, obviously. We just got to, you know, again, we want to continue to make moves up the chart so we can negate the down trend that we've been in. Now, you know, this year, I don't really know how to measure this one out, so I'm going to just continue to assume that this rounded bottom is, in fact, intact, and that typically you're going to see some sort of mirroring structure in here. So, again, it's logical to come back up to here or here. and then work our way back down, say into this range to back test this level. And that could take some days, right? This takes us all the way to the end of the first week of November, basically, in terms of where these lines converge and everything. So, I mean, we're still talking, and maybe even you still come back down here one more time, test here. We'll see. But I've got all sorts of measured moves that all suggest that we do have some more upside incoming, and it's just a matter as to the extent of said upside. So we'll kind of see how that all goes here. But again, I wanted to just kind of take us on some different time frames there, just so we can kind of get a feel for where the moving averages are, where we think we could be. But again, I think the daily chart, you've got to assume that this thing is going to be attacked at some point. So I think, again, we probably come up, put a tap on this. Again, the 21 moving average on the weekly charts right there, too. And then, you can see here on the daily, we got the breakout, the back test. We're back on the RSI. We're actually back within this original uptrend line here. We're not quite there on the price action yet, but you can see where it's logical to believe that'll happen. One more excess push, back test. That would be this coming back down to here. Then the only question is, can it then maintain this uptrend once it gets back there? We shall see. We'll find out here very soon, obviously. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little further here. The 4-hour chart I wanted to talk about briefly. Here's the last significant move that we got that was sustained. You can see how this one is kind of tracking along this part right here. And like I said, we're kind of forming out this parabola right now. So, it kind of looks like it starts from about here. But we've also got a smaller one. Do I know that this is going to hold up much longer? I don't know that it will. And in fact, I probably doubt that it will hold up a whole hell of a lot longer. Just from the standpoint that, again, we talked about this before, the RSI. I mean, look at this thing. This thing's pegged up here in overbought territory. It can only have so much more room to go. It can't possibly just continue to go up and up and up while it's sitting in this range up here. And especially, you can see where it's kind of looking like it's topping out. At some point, this thing has to put in a solid red candle, which means this thing has to come back down. Then it's just a matter of whether it stays up above this level and maintains an RSI uptrend. But we're still a little bit off from having to worry about that or even consider it. But again, some things that we're going to have to look at here as we're tackling these highs that we're eliminating here and getting above. So we got that started. I kind of looked at a few other concepts here and maybe, again, kind of coming back to an idea of an ascending triangle. You got a measured move basically here to here. So let's take a look at that. Measured move. 22 and change. So again, there's logic to believe 22 something is in the cards at some point. The issue becomes, again, where does that actually, does it happen now? Does it happen a week from now? 3 days from now? Tough to say. I'd say at this point we're more likely to put in a little excess push here, retrace back down to somewhere, and then go again from there. But again, as of right now, I mean, you tell me if you disagree with this assessment, but things look pretty decent out there as far as what we are getting back from the market. Bulls showing up for sure. But yeah, I mean, RSI is big time oversold or overbought. It's just a matter of time before this thing rolls over on itself. But again, do we get to 20,900 again? Do we get somewhere at least up the chart a little further? More than likely, and it seems fairly safe to believe that's going to be the case at this point. And again, a huge part of it is simply because in order for us to negate the downtrend, we've got to start killing the prior highs. Again, we got one. Let's go ahead and tackle these other ones. But again, I don't know that realistically we get up here this week, but it's feasible for sure. And then do we take that out? Probably not. And do I think that, let's say that things got real crazy, do we take out this high anytime in the immediate future? Again, probably not. We might need a few attempts to break through here. And then at that point, and I'm getting way ahead of myself here, but then at that point, all of a sudden you believe, you look at this chart and you say, all right, well, that was a fairly evident double bottom there. Double bottom measured move takes us back to, how about that? A little over 30,000 and almost recovers this level. I could probably show you on shorter time frames, actually, and I think it's playing out right now on a lot of charts, this general concept here. Just normally, when I'm seeing it, I don't see it over like multi-week, type situations or multi-month. It's normally 4 hours, 24 hours, 2 days. It's normally not this significant, but right now what you're seeing from the market is a lot of this on shorter time frames. And then what happens is you recover basically, once you've broken this level, you recover into this zone. And then it's just a matter as to whether or not you break that high or if you fail to break it, and then you continue the downtrend through here. But I think, over the course of the next few months, I think this zone is going to be my target. If we have a Santa Rally type quarter, this is going to be where we end up. It just is. It might only be up to here. And then, like I said, maybe, we get here, we have some trouble, and then spend a few months coming back down and sideways again. Something like that. But again, these are the things you got to kind of mentally prepare for. So that way, when they actually happen, you're not sitting there like, oh, man, I knew it was going to happen, and I didn't do anything about it. And and side note, 20,800 and change again. So, in fact, Bitcoin basically doing what we anticipate. So I always like it much more when Bitcoin is actually paying attention to what I'm saying that it can, should, or will do. I always very much enjoy that more than the alternative. Let me just say that much. But yeah, positive things out there once again. So this is good. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I in spite of this, it feels as though Bitcoin does want to make this final excess push. I mean, it may. I think that it probably comes back down into the 20,600 range one more time, and then if it's going to happen, then we're going to actually see the strong move, final move to the upside, and then we're gonna have to kind of flounder for a bit, but. We do have a possible golden cross coming on the 4-hour chart. That's where the red moves over the gold, if you will, the yellow. Golden cross sometimes leads to very significant upside, and that we're right there on the verge of that. So if Bitcoin isn't going to come back down one more time, then just assume we're about to go ahead and make our move to that 21,000 range. At least potentially here pretty quickly, actually. It's always nice when the market is bullish. Oh, man. All right. Let's go ahead. And again, I think this time, even though I've got some concerns here, and I've stated those already, that we're already right here. We're going to start running into serious trouble soon as far as, like, resistance. But, again, at least for the moment, I've got some faith that the bulls understand where we're at here and what we need to do in order to negate some different downside concepts. So I do think, again, we probably do recover this level, and whether or not we actually make any moves from there is another story. And how far above, when I say that we're going to recover it, how far above do we get? That's tough to say too. It could be something where overnight we kind of do actually finally come back down, back test this 20,300 range and make the final push that we're going to make. Again, I don't get to make the rules. I just get to tell you what I think could happen. And that's one concept I would look at there for sure. Even right now, I mean, it's happening as we're speaking. So, honestly, it's probably not even worth zooming in on the other time frames at this point. I mean, we've already kind of talked ad nauseum. We've got all these different levels that should be coming in as resistance. Bitcoin just kind of blowing through them at the moment. I mean, it's already up over 20,900 right now. That's basically recovering the 100 moving average on that daily chart. So, I mean, I guess I'll just say it this way: like, if that's the case, then it makes it even much more likely that we do hit something in 21,000 plus range here today. And again, even if it's just as a final excess push, still probably get there from the look of it. So, and the other thing is too, we've broken all of the the nasty trend lines. We had this one here that's broken, and again, you still got to come back down and back test it at some point, and maybe that even comes back all the way down to 19.7 ish. But same thing there. We'll just have to see as far as that part goes. Man, it feels good out there. I'll just say that. And if you find a way, this line here, we talked about this ascending triangle before. We lost it. We've bearishly back tested different levels, but now we're back up here, potentially bearishly retesting this one as well, but that will tell itself soon here too. Recover this level here though, and actually put in, maybe we'll spend a few hours here kind of working our way up. But again, here we are. There's our chance to push up to this level, and then you got the 0.5 fib. Again, if we can come up here to this 702, that matches this. All of a sudden now you're saying, wow, Bob, that's crazy. Everything changed so fast. Yes, and that's just how this market works. You either love it or you hate it, but you got to love to hate it and hate to love it. So, anyway, long story short, I think we're pretty well done here for the day. I'll start talking more downside targets here soon. But I think let's see if we're going to get actually this final excess push up the chart and go from there. Hey, as always, appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening. Let's go.